Hey folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Friday, February 21st. We made it to the end of the week, and maybe I can get a couple days off, and by the time we get back, my voice will be something approaching normal. Let's hope. As we enter the weekend here. Just got a question that I got yesterday and have had some conversations online over the last couple days, something I want to talk about here. And this comes from longtime friend of the pod, Randy Tobias. Randy, hey, Alan, glad to see you're starting to feel better. Thanks. Appreciate that, brother. I've been thinking about the Steelers signing Milton Williams, and I think this is a thought. I've been thinking about the Steelers signing Milton Williams too lately, as they have so much cap space. While he's undoubtedly a good player, does he really fill a need short of replacing Hayward or Benton? I keep hearing that Benton is playing out of position and would be much better as a traditional DT. And what the Steelers really need is a true nose tackle to shift Benton to Lario's position. As Williams is not a nose tackle, do you think the Steelers would or should settle for a 3 DT lineup and consider the personnel enough of an upgrade? As always, thanks for the great work. Great question, Randy. This cuts to a sort of fundamental thought process about who the Steelers are on defense and what they want to do. Is Keeanu Benton a traditional nose tackle? No. Will Keeanu Benton ever be a traditional nose tackle? Probably not. When was the last time the Steelers had a traditional nose tackle as a part of their regular rotation? Like 2018, maybe? Does not seem to be a thing that they care that much about. And when you look at the way they play, it's pretty obvious. So, to answer this question, I went back and charted the playoff loss to the Baltimore Ravens for Keanu Benton. And Keanu Benton in that game was healthy. He played a full normal workload. He was on the field for 30 defensive snaps, 41%. It's actually a little bit on the low side for him this season, but pretty normal workload, all things considered. And he was lined up as a traditional nose tackle, man up over the center, just 7 times in those 40 snaps, 30 snaps. So, I mean, they just, and that is against a team that was winning the entire game and trying to run the clock out and is more willing to play with a fullback than basically anyone else the Steelers or 2 tight ends than basically, or 3 tight ends than basically anybody else the Steelers will ever face. So like that's like the max possible workload for Keanu Benton playing nose tackle. It's like what you're talking about is 7 snaps a game. So it doesn't matter that much, is the bottom line, is that the Steelers just don't play that much base defense. And even when they are in base defense, a lot of times they're aligning themselves in ways that are not the way you would use a traditional nose tackle. Got the whiteboard to explain. So when a team is in a traditional Okie 3-4 defense, you have a 0-5-0, meaning 0 tech, head up on the center, 5 techs, head up on each tackle. Okay. Casey Hampton, Brett Kiesel, Aaron Smith. That's your old school Steelers 3-4. And they still run a good bit of this, but not as much as they used to. Okay. Now, a lot of the times, the Steelers are lining up their ends in tighter splits. Okay. These guys are 4-eye instead of 5 tech. And if you have a tight end involved, as you usually almost always do when you're in base defense, your outside linebackers are cut down, right? You're cutting down the splits, okay? When you're in this tight split, tight, people call this tight, condense the splits, okay? It makes it really hard to double team the nose, right? Because you have basically 5-on-5 accounted for, except for the tight end, and you have 2 linebackers. So if they're going to double team, you're going to open a gap, right? You have to open a gap double team this way when you tighten the splits like this. The Steelers do this a lot more. I would say 80-20 to the old school Okie, split that guy out, split this guy out, this guy's off the ball. Look, okay, Okie because the 3-4 defense was invented at Oklahoma, by the way, if you didn't know that. They do some other things too with a tilt nose. I don't want to get into all that. But when you tighten those splits, what you're doing is you're creating one gap players. You're saying this guy has to go here, this guy has to go here. And if you're one gapping, it doesn't matter who the nose tackle is. Like at that point, if you're taking away the ability to double team, then it doesn't matter. You just need, like Randy said, 3 guys that can all play defensive tackle. You don't need a nose tackle. So 7 snaps of that, a number of them are in those tight splits. Very little traditional nose tackle being played by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So a lot of fans talk about this. Oh, they need a nose tackle. Oh, they need Casey Hampton. The Steelers are actively not looking for that. They do not care. They've had Braden Fehoko on their roster the last 2 seasons and played him 0 snaps. They don't want it. Okay. They don't want to dress someone who can only do that. Now, if you can find Jordan Davis, a Kenneth Grant, maybe available in the first round, who can both be a nose tackle and be a legitimate 3-tech up the field pass rusher, well, then great, you go get those guys. But those guys are very rare. Steelers would rather have Mon Adams, Keeanu Benton, who are just 3-techs playing on the nose, than a plug who can't rush the passer, taking up a roster spot and a 45-man helmet spot to play 7 snaps a game. It just doesn't make sense for them to look at things that way. So the Steelers do not care about Keeanu Benton playing nose tackle. He will likely continue to play nose tackle. And when you see his position on the field listed as nose tackle, you should realize and just think that this defense has evolved, and it's not the traditional nose tackle responsibility that he's being asked to do anymore. It's a different job, and that job is one that Keeanu Benton is certainly capable of doing. I don't want to say he was great this year, but his struggles against the run were not because he was playing nose tackle, because he's not being overwhelmingly double teamed, and he would not be any more difficult to double team if you switched him places with Cam Hayward in that defense. You just wouldn't. You would still be able to double team him just as easily over there as you are on the nose. So go get the best 3 defensive linemen you can get, and don't worry about whether or not there's a nose tackle. That's the way the Steelers are going to approach this. And that's probably the way you should think about it if you're looking at adding to that defensive line group. A signing like Milton Williams for me would just be replacing Larry Ogunjobi. I think it's an interesting idea. I think there's really good players in this draft as well that I'm interested in too. So we'll see which way the Steelers go. That's all I got for this morning. Be back with more on the afternoon drive. Stay tuned for that around 6. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube platform. Appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for putting up with my voice. And until next time, enjoy.